Action Surge!
Welcome, everyone, to Action Surge. Quite a lot happened, actually. It was a lovely, gentle... So, shall I give the full context of the energy I brought today?
Yeah.
Which was, I won't... some people get very uncomfortable when people describe being ill. But I woke up in the night and I was sick. And then driving to the studio was also sick. And was like, I'll soldier on.
We to be clear, we were
You all
happy
told
to
me that
not-
it didn't matter, but...
I said come here.
Yeah,
right
you
now.
said quick. So I had already preemptively messaged you before I had any kind of issue and said, I want you to know I think this episode is a bit of a change of pace. We've covered a lot of ground in the last few eps. We've had massive battles. We've had party dynamics, we've had the tunnels, we've had all this kind of stuff. And to me, I would encourage you to take your time and explore the things you want to explore. And with one exception, you explored everything I thought you were going to explore, but I can't tell you who or what. I will tell that person afterwards what they didn't explore. It felt like, at the beginning of this ep, just like a really quite gentle, role-play driven. I mean, I felt in a really brilliant way. It's like so much fun as a DM. I barely had to say anything because you guys were just taking the lead. And then we ended with some kind of, just story-wise, quite high drama, really. Some interesting moments.
Why was the river blue?
I can't tell you why.
Well, that's I know.
Raidion knows.
You paid 300 gold to find out why the river was blue. Like that Ocean Colour scene song.
Because somebody dipped a whole ton of party wheels in the river.
It's party rings.
Party
So look
rings,
up
yeah.
party rings if you've not seen them before. It's the blue dye from party rings.
It's a funny thing. So, I like Action Surge as a show because it means that we can kind of talk about the things that intrigue us, both as players and as characters. As a player, I went, well, we're not going to find out why the river's blue. We're just not going to find out. It's silly. It's as far as I was concerned, it was like, it's environmental storytelling. It's what an interesting thing that we can discover later on down the line. Which is why I kind of enjoyed us really drilling down on it. Yeah. It was a stupid thing to do. I burnt a 3rd level spell trying to slow down a river.
Yeah.
When I literally have it as a cantrip just to control it.
It was so silly. But we were never going to know what was in the river.
But that's the interesting thing is that some of you, generally speaking, Doug is one and I think Alex is one. You tend to be players who are more like, if it's been put in front of me, there must be an answer for it. And there is always an answer for it, but it might be an answer that doesn't pay off for many eps. So Kelnis was like, no, this is unnatural. We need to investigate it. And I think you're kind of helped by being an Arcane Trickster. I feel like you might be a quite frustrated player if you couldn't cast spells. I think you have lots of ideas and you have lots of plans and schemes. And I think tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you might feel a bit limited if you didn't also have magic to play with, to try and use these spells that, I didn't tell you there was going to be a river. Yeah. But you decided to do your shape water thing. And I feel like that kind of scratches that investigative itch for you a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think it does. I think as well, if it wasn't there though, it would still be a case of trying to do it just within different parameters. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just,
I was always going to drink it.
Oh, 100%. That was the least shocking thing you did.
Yeah.
Of course you were going to go down and just drink it.
Why did you tell me to get in the river? No one told you to get in the river.
It's like old Raidion now. He's like, you all told me to get in the river.
Well, I really like it now because I feel like there is, if you're talking like power dynamics, it's like we can do all this weird stuff, but it's less like, oh, he's really annoying and more like, oh, he's a brother and he's being annoying. Like I feel like we've gotten to the point where like it's actually... Maybe it is. It's still frustrating, but it's not like, oh, he's being a dick and frustrating. Yeah. It's like there's more of a friendly like.
It's almost and there's a sense with the amount of goodwill you've all built up that it's a little bit like let him cook because and it might be stupid, but it might be interesting. I am just going to.
It's a bit like that guy at the party who always gets his dick out, you know? And you just go,
that guy,
Which guy?
It's like that guy.
Joe, yours is Joe.
But like in a non-threatening manner, it's just this.
It's just there.
It's just funny. It's funny.
I'm just going to move.
Radian's
I'm just going to move this this tissue paper, this incredibly noisy tissue paper, which surrounded. You said segueing beautifully, a new dice tower made by Market Crafted Campaigns.
Oh look, I didn't see the web symbol
It's
in
got
it.
a web symbol on it. Yeah, I've had this under the table since episode 11, I think. But I felt like with it's quite it was going to be almost impossible to use it and have it be impactful in the fight because we already had such a full table of minis.
Yeah.
So I was like, it hadn't even occurred to me actually, and then I kicked the box during the session and was like, I could make Raidion roll his d6 in the box.
Because we were talking about dice towers just before we
Yeah.
started.
That's why I was like, oh, Harry must have this thing planned because we were talking about dice towers.
It was because I'm not on the Discord as much as you, and I wasn't sure if maybe Mark had posted a picture of this to the Discord. At first, I didn't know that's what we were talking about. But this is a gift from the incredible Mark at Crafted Campaigns, who's just been,
Cheers, Mark.
Of all our collaborators.
But, like, what if we
he's
hadn't
just
done it?
extraordinary.
I know, yeah.
Because I was thinking about that when you got the dice tower out, and I was like, there was a world where we just wouldn't have even
engaged
this person like at all.
Yeah, I mean, I prepped I prepped Aoife with what I tried to do, and I did the same thing with. So we can now. Oh, this is just a little thing that we can get sidetracked by, which is fun. Dolly's from Mouse.
Yeah.
So Dolly had the same map of Mouse that you did, but didn't have the map of the Grenweird Castle.
No.
And that was purely by chance when we were creating characters. So the way that we created characters was we talked about, had a long chat with all of you, and we talked about your ideas for class and species, species rather than race, as per the new 2024 Players Handbook, which I think is a lovely change.
Oh, that was previous as well.
Oh, was it? I apologise to the 2014 Players Handbook. Just by chance, the two of you kind of went, oh, I think I'm from Mouse. And I really ummed and ahed, particularly because of, without any sense of spoiling anything moving forward, Dolly's temperament and backstory, and I was wrestling with whether or not it was the kind of thing that Dolly would know exactly who you were from the very first session. And even if realistically maybe she would, I just didn't want to undermine Holly, the player, by you creating your first character, which you put so much thought and love and heart into, and which was something that you felt the role play aspect of which is fun. I mean, I know you still find it exposing, but it makes me smile every time I think about Holly being like, I'm deeply uncomfortable with role play.
The whole thing is a deeply uncomfortable experience.
But it was such an exposing thing for you. It was something that was so far out of your comfort zone. I was like, what a horrible pullback and reveal to have a player at the table be like, I've always known who you are.
Yeah.
It would have felt like a nasty rug pull, like a mean-spirited one.
So to be clear, I didn't know for sure, but in that moment when we were chatting, because I knew who your father was when we were back in Barun, I knew who
you know who the Grenweird family are.
I knew who the Grenweird family, and also Dolly legitimately wasn't really actively involved in the town all that much.
No.
So I feel like she would have had a very strong inkling, and I feel like at that point she probably would have put enough things together.
It would have made sense.
That it would have made sense, and it was just a nice moment to be like, yeah, by the way.
It was lovely. Yeah. It was really, really nice to have it. I can't remember why I started talking about Mouse and Dolly and
about things just not being having little moments where things might just not happen. This might just not have happened.
Yeah.
And I guess if we just hadn't had a conversation, I don't know when, how.
That's essentially a Ben trap, or it was a Raidion trap.
Oh, as to whether we would go for the truth or not.
100%.
I knew it was a Raidion trap to begin with.
Of course.
I was just going to see how we were. Because I could see, I was looking and I was just waiting and waiting and waiting, and I could see you look at me, and I'm like, I'm not going to follow you.
You did.
But no,
it's going to happen, right?
It's that thing where obviously, and if she is a real docent of docent of grace, then great, and if she's not, it's not really any way of knowing. But it's I
mean, she had an image of someone with the deck of many friends. So that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that was it's also the great benefit of playing a character with no memory, and the great drawback of playing a character with no memory is the great thing is you get to discover all these things. But the bad thing is you actually have no control over the pacing of it. Because you can't look at me and be like, I remember everything. Because as the DM, I'm going, not fucking yet, you don't, or vice versa. Or, and I've got to be really aware of not kind of revealing more than you want to, telling you more than you want to know. Because I think for you, Ben, the part of the joy of the character is not really knowing.
Yeah.
and it has been for a while. But it feels to me like it's time to start. There have been these little flickers. It's the use of the deck. It's that teleporting thing that you did. The image that you had when you teleported. That we can start to kind of start to pick at it a little bit.
Fun stuff. But again, there's always a tendency when you're presented with something to want to kind of unload it all at once. But actually, the payoff is so much bigger if you don't give in to those immediate intrusive thoughts. Just kind of go, okay, I'm going to sit on it. Like seeing how your arc has developed, seeing how like actually being drawn out over 7-8 episodes essentially, and I don't mean drawn out in a negative way, but the payoff is so much better. It's so much more deep and meaningful because it's not like these moments are earned. They're earned through the act of doing and like conversations and how they involve us as a group are going to be more interesting. And hopefully, I don't want Raidion's story and Raidion's reveal to be about him. I want it to be about us as a group and about how we grow as a group through learning all this information and stuff. And
it's the reason I didn't step forward for the truth thing. Like, because in that moment, it's like, well, I is looking for a lost family, step forward to the truth. But I was like, narratively, it's going to be way more satisfying. We're en route to somewhere where we might find, start to go towards that. So that I don't need that right now because it's going to be.
And I think that's just like a sort of the difference between brand new players and players who've sat at a table for a while. And we've all sat at a table now. I mean, 14 eps. Let's call it about 3 hours an episode. That is, 42 hours?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's quite a long time.
yes.
24-hour session 1?
24-hour session starting now. And I think when you play with brand new players, often there is this like, it's like the it's like Black Friday sale. There's like the shutters open and everyone sort of is rushing in and pushing past people and trying to get their story out first and trying to get their character development out first and their cool stuff out first. And I think what you learn as a player is that you're never going to meet one character who could tell you something, and you'll never have the chance to get that information again. That's part of the fun of it, and that's me sort of doing my best to allow you to put your own foot on the brake or the throttle. It's just kind of going, if you don't want it now, then we can find other ways.
People, like I talk about my pet peeves. And one of my biggest pet peeves is people who get engaged at other people's weddings. And some people love it. Some people do the whole, like, I'm throwing the thing and they pass it.
Yes, and that was my reaction to if someone had done it at mine.
Yes.
But that doesn't necessarily mean everyone is wrong.
But it is, when I see it, I go, ugh, I hope you had a conversation with someone about this. But someone essentially usurping someone else's day and having what they believe to be main character energy and fundamentally making something about them when it's not about them. And I think that can happen sometimes if people want to feel like they have their moment of character growth and kind of going, it's not about you. This is someone else's wedding day. Let them have this. Your character growth can come at a separate time and it can come in a different way. And I don't ever want to get proposed to at someone else's wedding, or I don't want to propose to someone at someone else's wedding, essentially, narratively.
Yeah, totally.
And I think it's also, this is just an observation. Holly led pretty much every single one of the improvisations that we did in the past 2 episodes.
Yes.
And all of us could have explained what happened on Mount Atria, could have done that, but Holly led all of those things. And there have been other instances where you haven't led, you haven't wanted to lead. And I think it's through the confidence of you having this arc and then also the confidence of being secure in this environment, having the maps in front of you, knowing what you're doing has meant that your confidence doing all of these things is really incredible. Like it's like hearing you recount the story, I went, I could have done that better.
Because it's also like she's speaking to her family. It seems right that she would lead the conversation.
Totally.
But I think a few episodes ago, I would have looked at you, Aoife, and been like, Aoife will lead this, because like Aoife's...
As the face, that would be ordinarily a thing, but you're speaking to your family. It's like, it narratively, it makes total sense that you'd be leading all of these conversations and doing so with confidence.
Yeah.
And a girl with a new name, a lady with a new name, which I'm absolutely not struggling with at all.
Sorry, also it's you're not 100%. So a bit cool doing that to you today. But yeah, I think it makes sense.
I think it's lovely.
Like it.
I think it's lovely.
I think it's like the end. It's like marks the end of a chapter and the start of something new.
I mean, to really, really, really let people behind the screen. It's a conversation we had in Action Surge last week, and I did text everyone and say, I think it's such an important moment. I think it would be a real shame if at some point we didn't have it
Yeah.
in character, because it's exactly what you said. Like my family, my real name is Elowen, and the people I care about call me Ellie.
Yeah.
And you said it so beautifully in this episode, but also in Action Session. I was like, we can't just have that happen out of character.
Yeah,
it's
it
too
kind of need
beautiful.
to-
Like, it's too important. And for someone who's hidden and hidden and hidden and hidden and refused, even in the face of like that brilliant thing that I said, where he said, I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Dolly or I. Someone said he can't read, but he can read a room.
That was it. You think you said
That was
it?
Eve. Yeah, that was Dolly about I. To then be faced with, to get to a point of going, okay, here's my real name, but here's what 5 people in the world call me. 7 people in the world call me. And now it's 11 people in the world who call me this.
I think we talked about this again, I think me and you, maybe on Action Search, maybe off camera, but we were like, it's all good kind of Indelium being a little bit difficult and a little bit of PvP, but that can't last.
No, it absolutely
like, that's not going to create a table that we can play around. So you also have to be slightly conscious that at some point there has to be a sort
coming
of
together.
Yeah.
Especially when there was only a couple of episodes ago, she very specifically said, we're not friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
That it's lovely that we've had that moment coming through and coming out the other side, having, everyone put themselves on the line for her family. And she's like, deeds, not words, right? Like, that is the most crystalline, example of that she's ever going to get. We all, put ourselves on the line for her family.
We all left the web.
Yeah.
You could have,
all left the web.
all 4 of you could have been like, nah, it's not worth it. And I'd be like, fine, guess I'm going down with the fucking ship.
Yeah.
Because I don't think my character would have
Absolutely not.
followed the web. And like 4 of you could have.
I won't say who it was, but that person I did not, when we got to the road, I did not think that person was who they ended up being. I immediately thought, is this someone from the web come to hunt us down?
Oh, right.
What, the docents?
Yeah. Yeah, that feeling of wherever we go now, we have people, we have things hunting us, we have the web, we have the globe, we have the law.
Did you think I'd use Mantle Whisperers?
No, didn't even know about it. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. It's that thing where at some point when you all picked your classes and subclasses, early doors I looked at all your classes and subclasses to try and understand a bit how they worked. I didn't really bother with yours because you've played D&D longer than me. So it was like, well, I'm not going to teach Aoife how to play a friggin' bard. So I just trust that, that it'll be there. And I thought it was great. I loved it. It's lovely being surprised like that at the table, especially when you've not done that before. And so you start kind of describing something, and I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I think the fact that you're doing it, I'm like, we'll be fine.
Yeah, we're rolling with it.
Well, it's just the fact that he had the sending stone on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if we hadn't done that, I don't know. We don't know whether it worked or not, but having something to maybe stall the web a little bit was interesting.
That's what I always find difficult is when we've got to make decisions like that. What do we say when we do? And there's the 5 of us are trying to figure out actions, and it can get really.
Well, that's why I liked it. Actually, came down to just me and you.
Yeah,
I think it mattered the most too. Anyway, having you tell me what to say, I think was that was all that she really cared about, to make sure she was still doing the right thing.
You're like, this is going to run out. I've got a few more hours to do this. It's something that's in front of us. We're going to have to do it. But I think if we had carried on as a group of 5 trying to figure out what to say, we just weren't getting anywhere with it. And at that point, you're like, okay, well, we're still trying to make something.
Just going to have a glass of wine and just
wine and get on.
It's like drunk dialing an X. You're just
and I think that's when you're trying to make entertainment. You don't want to get too weighed down in minutes and minutes of we could do this, we could do this.
And some campaigns do it. I think, Critical Role has, shopping episodes and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not really that kind of DM. I'm a worse one. But also that pace at the table never interested me as a player. I want to feel like the story's moving forward, and I feel like we've set an expectation now for that this is quite a I don't think we've ever had an episode in which nothing happened.
Even when we're quite relaxed and the stakes feel lower, there's always at least one thing that happens in that episode that does move the story forward.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that there's always something significant seems to happen.
Yeah.
And that and it just makes the downtime feel more sort of, I don't know, just more satisfying anyway, because it's like we're not wasting time, we're not treading water.
No.
We're just like, we're doing what needs to be done. We're having those important role-playing moments, but then we're also... It's all feeding towards the next part of the story.
Filler.
Well, Raidion was treading water, but
Raidion was treading
Yeah.
but also that
boy.
kind of leads us into a mechanical thing, which is a kind of way into all the goodies that you guys got. You all, well, not all of you, but most of you, 4 of you, got some kind of goodie or some kind of new ability. Are you going to leave, Ben?
I don't need goodies. I'm so cool. I've got so many cool goodies.
The thing that, we've talked about this before, but we have an imbalance in party statistics in favour of Cal. And so it really worked that Doug wanted to take the Warden. Can you explain the Warden thing a little bit?
Yeah, the Warden is the new 2024 Player's Handbook, and it allows a druid to specialize a little bit more as not as a fighter, but with fighter-like abilities. So they can work with martial weapons and medium armor, and it's a real help. I mean, the other one is magician. Why they chose magician, I'm not quite sure, but and that one's more like so druids can specialize in the more mystic side of things or the more martial side of things.
Yeah. It gives you that greater flexibility. But I mean, lots of people love a tanky druid build, and this essentially is an opportunity to do that. But even though that was something you were getting for free and wasn't sort of making you mechanically stronger like stat boosts, it was a way of Kelner still getting something fun. Fighters now get an extra ability score boost at level 6, which is...
Yeah, I took an ability score
You
boost.
said to me at the beginning, I've added my points to for my ability score, and I went, you
Hannah, you don't get
you
one.
don't get one. You get them at 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. And I'm wrong. They've now added an ability score.
We had a bunch
just
of
for
physical
fighters.
books shipped to the office, so I was just wandering around with a book, but it's in the book.
Yeah,
I read
and
it
you're
wrong.
totally right. And I didn't know about that.
I didn't know
about that. Yeah, we have the 2024 Players Handbook.
I mean, some
Very
of us
kind
have really
so.
switched it. Like, I'm almost entirely.
You're almost entirely.
I am now almost entirely, except we're running. I'm not running standard array on my thing.
And we're not going back and doing Origin feats.
No.
Because to me, that's just maybe a little bit too much retconning. If you wanted to take proficiencies, I wouldn't mind, but they come with stat boosts as well.
So I've taken
backgrounds.
proficiencies and no stat boosts.
Yeah,
So because I really lacked nearly all. I lacked all proficiencies that made sense for my character.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't even proficient in strength.
Yeah, and I feel like you build a character before you play session 0, or at session 0, and you're like, great, I'm going to take, like the classic one, like I'm going to take animal handling, and then because he would have grown up riding horses, and then it never comes up, and it's so frustrating when part of D&D, and sometimes where it can be tricky is. Proficiency in perception is just really useful. Proficiency in stealth is just really useful.
Oh my God,
and
today.
insight,
It's been
and
so
then maybe
good.
one charisma, a persuasion or a deception. They're kind of all you need, really. And so if you've done a really characterful set of proficiencies, I'm going to take medicine, I'm going to take survival, I'm going to take animal handling and arcana. You're like, great, but then just not going to come up as much.
Yeah.
And so I think switching proficiencies from time to time is totally fine.
That's why I created my own spoon carving.
And it's a
But then I purposely didn't
legitimate
put
reason.
them in. I purposely didn't put them into things where I actually have a minus. So I actually have a -1 in intelligence.
Yes.
And I still haven't put anything into it because it feeds into a lot of things that I just don't think kids. Elowen doesn't really do a lot of investigation.
See?
I don't really care. It's really hard.
Bloody difficult.
I don't care to look for a lot of stuff.
No.
I don't like magic, so why would I want a plus in Arcana?
History.
I don't like religion.
Yeah, you don't like religion. History is the only one that potentially you could...
And I did actually put a proficiency in,
There
but
we
that is
go.
the noble background. Gives you that as
great,
that's one of your
great.
standards. So I was like, I don't want to nullify those because that is characterful.
That's her character,
Yeah.
yeah. And then in terms of the stuff that the rest of you got, we got the Manual of Bodily Health for Dolly.
Which sounds like a thrilling read.
Oh,
Yeah.
You really sold
It
us on
doesn't
that.
say it's boring in the
crack it,
description, but
yeah.
it just strikes me as very boring. But again, and when we talk about wanting to move things forward and not get stuck, technically how the Manual of Bodily Health works is this. If you spend 48 hours over a period of 6 days or fewer studying the book's contents and practicing its guidelines, your constitution score increases by 2.
It's so
which would
much
mean it's
time.
8 hours a day. So it would mean essentially all of your... If you say you need to have an 8-hour long rest during which you can't be reading, so you then have to create downtime at least 4 hours in the morning before you leave, at least 4 hours in the evening before you sleep, where you're reading a book. Now there are certain campaigns where that would work brilliantly because people, some campaigns and some tables really love the idea of being like, we're in Baroon. I'm going to find a smith to make me a +1 whatever. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do the other. We don't tend to play like that. And so for me, what I'll probably say is, if you give me
like leafing through it.
give me 3 or 4 rolls, and we'll.
I'll just create a 5-foot block of ice. You can sit on it. We can strap a rope to Kelness.
Kelness's famous rope, which
you'll
you come out
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
have a little read. There you go.
Done.
A really cold bum.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that constitution boost.
And then you got your
Crossbow.
crossbow. So my plan originally was, had any of the brothers fallen, those of you who don't have Grenweird daggers would have got Grenweird daggers. But they didn't.
We can still go back and kill them.
We can still go back and kill the brothers and take their daggers. Absolutely, they are after all.
Totally worth
they
doing.
are after all a +1 dagger. You do 1d4 +1 plus your dexterity modifier. But I didn't. It's a tricky thing. I was aware, and perhaps a kind of weakness of this episode was it was a little, from my point of view, it was a little bit of like a generation game of like a cuddly toy, a smoothie maker, like just sort of various things going past you, and this sort of queue that I had of shit I needed to get done. But I tried to make it so that none of them quite had the same quality. So Dolly's takes a little bit of time to come to fruition. Kelness's happens straight away. And Delian gets money, but it doesn't really have an immediate impact. It just means you can do stuff. And then you have this particular little mechanic to do with this crossbow. And that wasn't part of the plan at all. It literally just came out of the fact that during the fight, I described it as misfiring a few times. And I was thinking about how could we give you something cool, because you get to a certain point, like level 6, you're going to start fighting stuff that is resistant to, or maybe even immune to, non-magical piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning damage. And actually, I've made mistakes in home games where I've had a group of like level 5 people fight like a water elemental, and it's boring for them because all their attacks doing half damage. So it's just a grind. Like the water elemental's not going to kill you, or the water weird or whatever isn't going to kill you, but it's going to take twice as long as it should.
And he's an arcane trickster.
You're an arcane trickster, so I just sort of thought it was a really good opportunity to give you, and also your daggers are from your tribe. They feel very specifically from your tribe.
Yeah.
When you look at the aesthetics of them, they're already part of the cosplay.
Yeah.
You know, they have those beautiful feathers on them, and I was like, it would be a shame to take that out of your identity.
Yeah,
Whereas
sure.
the crossbow, you've never particularly described
No.
in sort
just
of
a
vivid
crossbow.
language. It's just a crossbow.
Yeah. Also, while we're talking about water, that was my first use of this new cantrip because, as I said, I realised that I kind of doubled up with a cantrip and a
Minor
spell
illusion
that-
and silent image.
silent
and stuff.
image, yeah. Kind of basically one is just a worse version of the other. Sure, you can cast it more frequently, but, you know.
Yeah.
Using it then in that moment, I was like, do we want to put some limitations on this cantrip from a purely, or are you happy? Because I feel like there are moments in which it could be a little bit OP just to be able to freely cast it and do it.
It's all utility, isn't it?
It's utility, I think. I mean, like, for example, could you, I mean, I shouldn't give you thoughts like this, but could you pick up water, put it in a lock, freeze the water?
That's already
the
I thought.
first thing I always thought about.
You know. Yeah, you could, but it won't. But it's that to me is a sort of thing where,
DM's discretion, isn't
yeah,
it?
you'd have to roll for it.
Yeah.
You know, and there, you know, with generally speaking, with leveled spells, even if it doesn't work, it kind of works.
Yeah.
So even if you save your dexterity, you make your dexterity save on Fireball, you take half damage. If you make your, is it Con or Wisdom or Dex on Shatter? Con, you take half damage. Lightning, Call Lightning, you take half damage. Sometimes you'll take all the damage, but you won't be knocked prone or you won't be blinded. to me, a cantrip, the whole point of a cantrip is they are disposable, and therefore sometimes nothing happens. And it's the only time where I feel really comfortable being like, nothing happens doesn't work. Or I create a difficulty, I create a DC which makes it difficult, but kind of rewards the idea. Yeah, you get to roll for something you shouldn't be able to do with it, or that could really open something up for you, but there'll be a roll involved. Whereas if you were casting a leveled spell, like there's a spell knock, right, which just opens locked stuff. I don't want to step on the toes of that high level, that leveled spell. So no, I don't particularly feel the need to put restrictions on it.
Talk about the little whistle thing. What was the whistle?
Oh,
because Kel's got 20 of them.
These are a real thing that I found in
the shrieking.
They're called Aztec death
whistles.
So in fact, I'm just going to play the sounds.
They're amazing.
These are, I think, Aztec death whistles being played. And one more. And they're extraordinary things. And they were discovered in, forgive me if I get this wrong, Aztec burial grounds and monuments sometimes. And there were a couple of theories as to how they were used. One, which is thought to probably be erroneous, is that they would be used to begin a battle to try and freak the hell out of your opponents.
Yep.
Another is that there's something to do with the sacrificial rituals that were part of Aztec culture. And the other is that they were part of a kind of burial ceremony and that you were buried with them. I thought you'd take the bait much more than you did. I mean, you still ended up going into the brewery. I didn't think you were going to, this is going way back to the last episode, I didn't think you were going to take the bag into the brewery.
Really?
Yeah, but I thought you might, and depending on your reaction to it, you didn't seem that bothered by the whistles. If you'd seemed bothered by the whistles, Eden also would have been very bothered by the whistles, and he would have worried that there were people being tortured in the brewery. And so that would have made him much more impulsive and much more, I have to get to the brewery. That was kind of what I thought was going to happen, or what I thought could happen. But then you were kind of ambivalent about it. You were like, that's weird, it's a weird sound. And it's like, oh, okay.
That's just Spooky Witch doing Spooky Witch shit.
Spooky Witch. Yeah, but see, it's because she raised her hand, and I think you thought she was casting a spell.
Yeah.
When in reality, that was just members of the Gloam blowing into these death whistles to make it sound like people were screaming. But I've snookered myself. Like, I've described it as being really dark. You see her on the edge of the firelight. She's raised her hand. I can't be like, no, you don't understand. They sound like human screams. Like, you just heard the sound. If they don't sound like human screams to you, they don't sound like human screams. So it was like, oh, okay, well, I think that the idea of them being used as an intimidatory technique is just really interesting and really fun and really frightening. So I wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity to take those and use them, and
we'll use them.
Yeah.
We'll use them.
We'll see. We'll see.
And then the plan is to head to the Sanctum, as I understand it, and to find Parvus. And I have tried very hard not to railroad you into Yannick, and if you don't go to Yannick, I really don't. It's no skin off my nose whatsoever. But Isolde is from there, and when I was looking at the map, I think I made the point when I first introduced Yannick that it has a watch, but they couldn't spare it, and that it didn't have a wall. And I was thinking about this session, I was like, if she's just seen the kind of shit that's coming, she would be saying to her family, get out of this unguarded non-fortress of a town and get behind these walls and bolster our ranks with yours, and let's keep each other safe. Because also something that you guys kind of edged towards and then didn't actually act on, and I was kind of behind the screen thinking, ooh, I wonder how I handle this, was I thought you were going to do something to sort of try and bolster the defenses, or maybe this idea that, you couldn't leave Mouse unmanned. So it was also a kind of a response to that, in the sense of being like, there might be ways of adding to the garrison to at least allow Indelian to be like, we haven't left my 4 brothers with 6 people.
Because, I never felt like that, because I feel like it didn't fall.
No.
They obviously know a lot more about the Gloam now than they did prior to that battle. It would be like, well, this is it. Like, the Gloam are either going to keep coming or they're not. Like, what do? Like, you either have to keep standing and fighting, or they're going to chase us all back to Barun, and we're, like the entire Reliquary is going to have a last stand in Barun. Like, you know, so at some point, I do wonder if you'll see more of this, like people gathering in cities, you know, having little towns and villages, just like better off behind the walls. But it didn't really think to be like, oh, I'm worried about my brothers. They wouldn't be able to defend Mouse without me. That's not that didn't cross Elwyn's mind at all.
Right. We had lovely little interactions with just pairs of people who'd never really spoken with each other. We had Kellen and I. We had Torian and Dolly. We met Agatha.
Yeah, that was really nice. The know how you speak Gnomish.
Nice.
That is Gnomish.
That was fun.
Thanks.
I'm glad you think so, Ben.
It was fun.
I really enjoyed the Torian and Dolly thing.
Yeah,
I
two
really,
people I don't think would
No,
ordinarily
and I really enjoyed the smell me and him not having any clue whatsoever as to.
It's adorable.
Yeah,
He's definitely a hover-hander.
She's a very charming person. That's literally her whole
she
shit.
is.
I don't think she would not take to being told that she's not in any way, shape, or form. So she needs that validation from someone, and he was caught in the crossfire.
Yeah, totally.
You've also described what Dolly smells like before, which is nice. She just smells nice.
Yeah.
So I like that she doesn't like the fact that someone's told her she doesn't smell nice.
I feel like Dolly is the kind of like those people who you sort of stay over at their house and you're like, I'm going to see them without like a full face of makeup on. And you don't.
And you don't.
And you don't. And you never will. No. Like as long as
flawless.
that the image is like really important and it's kind of her armor and it's sort of how she's kind of protected herself.
She that's the only reason that she's been able to get as far as she has. And like it's literally like she said, you know, Endelion has a sword. I has a crossbow. This is her whole thing. This is how she keeps herself safe.
And then when she finally wipes the makeup off Grornoth,
Hideous.
she was Grornoth the whole time.
At one point, she was Morgan. So
That's a really... So explain that. Explain this to me.
Yeah, so she literally... so it's Mantle Whisperers. I get it at level 6, so it was very well timed.
Yeah, wasn't it?
I'll give you the whole thing now. It is actions... Well, I also get counter charm as well, which is fun. Yeah, Mantle Whisperers. You gain the ability to adopt a humanoid's persona. When a humanoid dies within 30 feet of you, which he absolutely did because he was literally within melee range, you can magically capture its shadow using your reaction. You retain the shadow until you use it or you finish a long rest. It transforms into a disguise that appears on you, their literal shadow. You now look like the dead person, but healthy and alive. This disguise lasts for 1 hour or until you end it as a bonus action. While you're in the disguise, you gain access to all information that the humanoid would freely share with a casual acquaintance. Such information includes general details on its background and personal life, but doesn't include secrets, because that would be a bit OP. The information is enough
Should be able to upcast it for secrets, shouldn't he?
But information is enough that you can... The whole point is that you can pass yourself off quite comfortably as that person by drawing on their memories. So it would be great, like, if we killed a guard, for example, and needed to replace that guard. Another creature can see through this disguise by succeeding on a wisdom insight check contested by your charisma deception check. You gain a +5 bonus, so it's pretty hard to beat it.
Oh, that's interesting because I rolled behind the screen for the receiver for the spinner because I looked at sending spell and it says you send a short message of 25 words or less to a creature with which you are familiar. The creature hears the message in its mind, so it would need to be in the voice. Recognizes you as the sender if it knows you, and it's like, ooh. So it
is a contested check.
But if it's Morgan's voice with Morgan's,
which it would have been.
He rolled like stink.
Good.
So it wouldn't have mattered. I think he rolled 4.
He's got a lot going on.
He's got a lot going on. He's got a lot of stones.
Now.
Yeah. He's like when you see like 90s stockbrokers on the trading floor. all of those phones under their arms.
In my mind, it was one of the kind of like 1920s people who work with.
Switchboard operator. Yeah.
Okay, can you take a spinner now?
Yeah.
I have 2 sending stones on me.
Yeah, you do.
Well.
Both of which.
Don't get them mixed up.
Are
That
they
can
like
be really
cop and
awkward.
string?
That would be amazing.
Are they cup and string? So they're like one sending stone to one sending stone. Are they like general mobile?
No, they're
pairs.
So that's the sending spell. Let me read you sending stones. But yes, so they come as pairs. They come in pairs, each smooth stone carved to match the other, so the pairing is easily recognized. While you touch one stone, you can use an action to cast a sending spell from it. The target is the bearer of the other stone. If no other creature bears the other stone, you know that fact as soon as you use the stone and don't cast the spell. Once sending is cast through stones, they can't be used again until the next dawn. If one of the stones is a pair, or If one of the stones in a pair is destroyed, the other becomes non-magical.
Fun.
It is fun.
Got a couple of phones on you.
You know,
Got a burner phone.
it's way.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then we met, kind of finally, I guess, we met the Docent of Grace.
Which are brilliantly creepy.
Oh, good.
Yeah, no, like really
Oh, good.
like proper mystical, and it does start with the scents. Like it sounds daft, but as soon as there's sage and lavender burning, you were like,
Lilac
right,
and
we're in
gooseberries was essentially
lilac
what
and
I'm trying
gooseberries.
to do.
In fact, when you were like, what does Dolly smell like? I'm like, do not say lilac and gooseberries. Do not say lilac and gooseberries.
It is lilac and gooseberries.
But yeah.
Yeah, oh, good. No, I mean, I was really, I think I came up with them yesterday. Did I send you that yesterday?
Yeah. No, a few days ago.
A few days ago. I came with it a couple of days ago. Because you're going close to Vale, and I don't need you to go to the cities. Particularly, sometimes it's not very useful to go to cities if there isn't a story hook there. So I was like, how can I bring...
Well, we're wanted now as well. So.
Yeah, how can I bring some of the fun stuff from that you would find there into the world? And so this idea of having like a traveling, almost like a fortune teller, almost something. There's something, but there's also something like a little more intimate about it. It's
weird.
Yeah.
Reminded me of, aesthetically in my mind, the way you were describing them. There's a character in Elden Ring who's always standing like, who's always like praising the sun or whatever. And I can't remember what they look. They have like this kind of like golden mask.
Literally gold mask.
Gold mask.
Yes. So I also was like,
gold mask.
as you know, I'm not game literate at all, but I'm aware that the FromSoft games, they have like quite elaborate names for things. They'll be like name something of something.
Yeah.
This one less so, but yeah.
Right.
Gold mask.
But see this character, I mean, you knowing her name or the name she calls herself is not an issue. She's called Amira, Docent of Grace. And I was like, sounds like a fucking baddie from like a Souls
If anything
game.
with like an explanation,
Yeah. But that came from the original idea was I wanted to have a kind of nod to like the story holes thing is like a little bit intentionally like innuendo-y. That's based also on, if you've ever been to, I know it's in Florence, but I think it's in other cities as well, where you can ring a bell and they give you a glass of wine through the window.
Yeah.
And it was that, and it was also kind of glory holes, and it was like that whole sort of thing. But I didn't want to make it too explicit, and I didn't want to get into sort of weird allegories of sex work, because I just don't think that's a very...
You managed to make it intimate without making it explicit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, and I think Leonard Cohen once referred to sex workers as sisters of mercy, I think. And so I was trying to find something that
It's also a Warhammer thing.
Is it? Oh, is it?
Yeah, Sisters of Mercy.
But I was trying to find, trying to find things that kind of had those kind of echoes. So
Well, it works
Docents
because
of
it's-
Grace, Poets of Grace.
It's sensual because you're talking about smell and touch and, like it's all
the whispering in the
the whispering
ear.
in the ear and like all that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
like it is that, but it's not, overly intimate.
And it's also quite nice to have Dolly. So as part of the text that I sent you, I said, lots of people are very cynical of the gracious, but actually tieflings would be more predisposed to believe it or at least want to engage with it because it is like a cultural storytelling thing. And I quite like the fact that Dolly was really willing to engage with it when actually normally she's quite cynical.
Yeah, you prepping me with that stuff because as soon as you started talking about smells, I was like, I think I know what's coming. And so like as soon as you described the figure, I was like, oh, this is okay. Yeah, like I feel like, and I think she would have been like, oh yeah, of course, it's this
a
thing.
tiefling
It's
thing.
fine. Yeah, it's tiefling thing, guys. Don't worry about it. So it was almost like a show of this is fine.
Yeah.
That I'll do it first.
And you asked her for a truth. And you said to her as you were leaving, I knew a lot of that anyway. What was new?
Where his location.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought that was new. And I was
Yeah.
like, because also I didn't think you'd ask for a truth.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. That's really cool. What are you, what is the truth you want? Like, what's the thing that you're really searching for? And so, and I was like, how much, again, you're like, don't give away too much information. But it's nice to start to be able to put those puzzle pieces together a little bit.
Well, it's something that's been mentioned a few times now.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
I had this interesting conundrum in my head with the docent. At first I thought it was a Kelmis trap.
Oh.
And I was like,
Well, it still could be based on that ending.
yeah, it could be. But yeah, I was like, I kept thinking to myself, do I want to ask this question? I have, because I won't tell you what the question would have been. But I found myself kind of in Kelnis's mind going, how much do I want to trust the asking of this question to this random willowy creature in the woods?
Then who else would you ask? Like, this kind of mystical creature's come out of nowhere. Dolly's sort of gone, hey, it's a tiefling thing. It's all good guys. And it's like, well, where else do you go? The only other place you go to for information is the web, and we've set that on fire. So, you can't go there. So I guess a mystical creature, cross my palm with gold and I'll tell you a truth seems just as a viable option as anything else.
But I think it was as much as that. It was for me, it was the how much in this moment does Kel want to know that truth? Do you know what I mean? So it was like, the possibility of an answer is here.
Yeah.
Or not. But if it is really here, and if I were told the truth, is it a truth I would want to know?
Yeah. And that's exactly what we're talking about you having control of the throttle and the brake pedal on your own story to an extent. That things like Barabask appearing in the sky and telling everybody you're god killers, that's me aggressively pressing the throttle for you. And so after story beats like that are kind of necessary for the overall story, I'm always really keen to try and give you guys as much agency as possible, including a ridiculous use of a spell, which I shan't allow again, because even as I was saying it was fine, I was like, this is not how this
You're like,
works.
today's just not the day for me to fight Raidion. This is just not
I
not
like
like
it
it.
because
Because
I love him.
I did move at half speed.
You did. It's not how it works. It says creatures within. Water is not a creature, unless it had been, and it would have been an extraordinary time to find out, that it was in fact a gargantuan water elemental posing as a river. That would have been cool. That is not what that was.
You know what? It didn't work anyway, so it didn't matter.
It's all fine.
Tasted delicious.
I just got wet.
and then dry.
Soggy feet.
Right, well, shall you roll you some ponies?
Yes.
Not in this, because that's for special
That's the
rolls.
special rolls. And I get to talk about what my favourite thing from the episode was. I really liked... I was very excited to actually get to drop this little Raidion nugget. And the other thing that I really enjoyed... I really enjoyed... I just enjoy listening to the interplay. I am quite spaced out and I'm quite tired. And in the first sort of 25 minutes of the episode, I think I really said very little. And that's kind of a really rewarding thing. I've said it before, but when your players are just existing in the world that you've made for them with characters that they've brought out of absolutely nothing, and they're driving their own story, and it feels real and it feels fun and it feels collaborative. That's like the most rewarding part of DMing, I think. Right. Elowen Grownweird.
Not good for me, actually. 67.
Well, I should have kept your old name, baby.
Yep.
A kobold eye. Oh, your dress. I loved your dress. That's what I meant. I loved your dress.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to hot streak. 117.
Deece. Doug?
80. I just can't seem to break 100 these days.
Wow.
Yeah.
How awful.
97.
Not bad. Not bad. Come on, for Wilson. Take
That
us
has me 136.
Yeah!
Oh, 100 and then an 18 on the 20. Like,
Wow, that's wild. I mean, well done.
Ain't
It is.
easy.
Fantastic.
Ain't easy.
What's everyone's
It is-
HP now, by the way? I want to know. What's everyone at?
Well, mine is legit HP, whereas yours is made up. Player's Handbook 2024. Mine's like honest HP. Yours is
Honest Abe HP. You know.
yeah. Yours is you take a lot of steroids
Twatting on the
there.
I'm
battlefield,
at
we fine.
52.
I really like
You're at 55.
Yeah.
55.
45.
Nice. What's Dolly at now?
33.
33, but when you
getting
finish
there.
your
Yeah.
so Dolly's got an 11 in Constitution, which will become a 13, which will give her a +1 potential to add another point to it and get a +2. And I think this is how it works, and even if this isn't, this is how we're going to do it. The point at which her Constitution modifier goes up, she is going to retrospectively gain 1 HP for every level she's been at. So she'll gain another 6. So what, you want at 32?
33.
33, you'll go to 39.
And then I will be the squishiest.
As it should be, the natural order
Yes.
is
But I
reestablished.
kind of like
Radiant.
it. I think that's good.
Raidion is
He's too powerful otherwise.
Oh, whatever.
sure, hun. Sure, hun.
What are you running in? Well,
Whatever
if
you
anyone
say.
can see on the video, everyone's packing up to go home. So,
I love that you think I'm letting you all go home and we haven't got more work to do after this.
thank you very much for joining us on this week's Action Surge. We're having a marvelous time, and you're all making it possible. So thank you for tuning in. Do drop us reviews and comments. Help us in the algorithms. Check out the Patreon if you haven't already.
Spread the word.
But if none of those things tickle your pickle, and all you want to do is turn up and just be part of the story,
Did you say tickle your pickle?
I did, Doug Cockle. Then,
You've done very well, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done today.
So well done, me and D&D, baby.
Yeah.